Hi, my name is Sophia Brockman. I'm our Student Services Specialist for the Office of Care and Disability. And for Be Well Week of Fall 2024, one of our events was on finding that calmness within and managing anxiety from political news, political anxieties, polarizing conversations, etc. And so I'm going to do a quick little presentation on what that topic covered. And I'll go over, managing anxiety when dealing with polarizing conversations, how to engage in these conversations with emotional intelligence, and then, exploring how all of this impacts our emotional and physical sensations and what practical tools we can use to help manage those feelings. And so it's incredibly important to be able to kind of navigate political anxiety, especially when we are in an election year. But when we talk about addressing polarizing anxiety, media, etc., it's crucial because this is going to allow you to help maintain your mental well-being, foster healthier relationships, and promote balanced perspectives. So when we talk about polarizing topics or political anxieties, what we're often discussing or addressing is a controversial issue that can cause people to divide into opposing groups or even more. And so when we manage our media consumption and are able to address those anxieties, we can begin to reduce stress, improve our focus, and engage in more constructive dialogue, which ultimately leads to a healthier and more informed society. So, we're going to dive into some sources of anxiety specifically related to political anxiety. The first one is obviously polarizing conversations. These can trigger anxiety because they often involve conflicting viewpoints and emotionally charged topics. It's incredibly difficult to engage in a conversation positively or happily when it feels like your values are being attacked, your morals are being attacked, your identity, your individuality. And so engaging these discussions really leads to heightened stress as you may begin to feel pressured to defend your beliefs or confront opposing views. And this conflict creates a sense of unease and fear of negative judgment or escalation, which again increases that overall feeling of anxiety. Additionally, the emotional intensity of such conversations can lead to lasting feelings of frustration and distress, impacting your mental well being and your interpersonal relationships. Another source of anxiety is our media news saturation. We are constantly bombarded by news and media exposure, which significantly increases our stress levels. Today we get breaking news updates every hour, sometimes it feels like. We are constantly barraged with a bunch of information on, political war and different climates and what is happening, and it really feels out of control. This continuous influx of alarming or negative content can really trigger chronic anxiety and emotional burnout, leading to persistent feelings of overwhelm. This stress and these disruptions, they affect our daily activities. They reduce productivity and affect our personal relationships. The constant barrage of information may also cause mental exhaustion, making it harder to really focus or maintain a positive outlook on life. And so being able to manage your media consumption is crucial to reducing your stress and maintaining your overall well-being. One of the tools we often give students, or really anybody we talk with, is, when we talk about media, we talk about being on our phone or any kind of technology in relation to like your sleep hygiene specifically, we always recommend going an hour before bed and an hour after you wake up without any kind of media or technology. And so what this does is it allows your body to kind of decompress and relax at the end of the day, and you're able to have a solid night routine that hopefully is de-stressing and anxiety free and allows you to really focus on your well-being and prepping for tomorrow. And when we talk about waking up without technology, that allows your body to not be immediately put into that fight or flight response. It allows your body to gradually wake up and kind of just, do what it's got to do to remain in that homeostasis. Another source of anxiety that's going to be incredibly, related to the media and news saturation is social media. When we talk about anxieties from social media, I feel like there's a really large shift in how that anxiety is portrayed or what is rooted in it. And so social media plays a really significant role in amplifying political anxiety because it offers up these platforms that often create echo chambers that really reinforce our existing beliefs while amplifying negativity or misinformation towards the other side. And so we've all seen viral posts, especially in the last year, it feels like, that are designed to provoke fear or anger and really exacerbate our anxiety. And additionally, we're comparing ourselves to other strong's opinions or seeing frequent political conflicts online, which can really begin to lead to feelings of alienation or attack. And so social media can also inflate these feelings of uncertainty about the future and these feelings of powerlessness. It's this idea of this political conflict is happening thousands of miles away from me. I can't do anything about it, but I am still stressed out. I still feel anxious. I still feel, emphatically supportive of these people, and I want to do something. And so political or societal changes, they really impact various aspects of our lives, such as, healthcare or employment, or even just, that empathy, right? Just feeling for your neighbor. And so when we feel powerless to influence these changes or outcomes, it creates such a sense of helplessness and increases your anxiety. And so it's really crucial to be able to acknowledge these feelings and find ways to regain a sense of control, like advocation or even taking breaks from engaging in this content. And so, we used to talk about social media created, these anxieties around comparison. And so you'd be told, hey, unfollow that influencer or follow, mindful people, follow people who affirm who you are. And now it kind of seems like you can't get away with it or away from it. But we really recommend, just finding positive media to address or follow or engage with that's going to really reduce your anxiety. And so we'll start to talk about how do we recognize our emotional responses. And so when we're confronted with polarizing or emotionally charged topics, we're often experiencing a strong emotional reaction and sometimes even a physical one before we acknowledge the emotional. And our emotional reaction can be frustration, anger, anxiety, and so much more, right? You might notice some tension in your body, a faster heart rate, or even feelings of discomfort that help kind of exacerbate those feelings. Recognizing our emotional responses is crucial because it really helps us to understand why we might react strongly to certain topics, and we might be able to better understand, hey, what's a trigger for me? What is making me feel anxious right off the bat? And how can I either decrease that interaction or really start to engage and identify ways to reduce those feelings instead? And so when we identify these emotions, we can really begin to take steps to manage them effectively. This self-awareness allows us to engage in conversations more thoughtfully and reduces the risk of escalation into conflict because you're able to kind of be self-aware and really address what's going on in your body before just lashing out or addressing the other person. And so I want you to pause for a moment, reflect what emotions come up for you when discussing or thinking about polarizing topics. Some people, they're really passionate and they get kind of excited to talk about politics. Other people, it gives them so much stress and anxiety. And so I want you to be able to think about this. And then we're going to move on to talking about some physical reactions to stress and anxiety. And so I'm sure you all have felt stress or anxiety in some way before. And so these feelings, these symptoms may not be exactly new to you, but hopefully we can kind of connect them to those emotional sensations and really begin to take those steps to manage them. And so when we talk about physical reactions, they're incredibly common. Some people notice their heart rate speeding up, their muscles tensing, in their jaw, their shoulders, their lower back, or just a feeling of being on edge. These reactions are a part of our body's fight or flight response. And so it's perfectly normal. It's understandable why we get into feeling these ways when we're engaging in anxiety-ridden conversations. And so again, I want you to just think about what are some of those physical sensations that you feel when you engage in hard conversations, and then start to think of what steps you can take to calm yourself down before the emotions or before it becomes a little bit too overwhelming. And so as we talk about engaging in how it feels emotionally and physically to engage in these conversations, let's talk about some of the ways we can cope with them. The first one is one of our favorites will be box breathing or mindful breathing, deep breathing. Box breathing specifically is a very simple breathing exercise that we often introduce to students because it's quick, it's easy, you can do it wherever, and it helps to calm your body and your mind. And so all you have to do is you have to visualize this box in your mind. You also don't even have to visualize the box. You can just inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and then repeat until you feel calmer. And so we recorded recently for our Mindful Zone series, we recorded with Conchita Andrzejewski, who is our behavioral health counselor here at HSC. She recorded a very quick, about 3-minute box breathing exercise. You can skip to about a minute in if you want to just quickly engage with the content. But this is a really great exercise that you can do in the car, you can do walking to class, you can do sitting in your desk before taking an exam, or you can do it as you are engaging with somebody in a really tough conversation, or if you're at Thanksgiving dinner and somebody across the table is doing it. And so it's a very quick and simple one. I do want to note that when we talk about mindfulness, we talk about relieving anxiety. The goal isn't necessarily to get you back to 100% okay or good. The goal is to help make you a little bit more flexible and kind of reduce some of those feelings. And so sometimes you're just going to be carrying that stress, and our goal is just kind of alleviate it a little bit. Get it so that it doesn't hurt. Get it so that you can move forward and you can focus a little bit better. So another way that we can cope with these feelings or these sensations is physical grounding. I love physical grounding. It's such a great way of just kind of reconnecting with yourself, your environment, and even nature. One of the ways we do this is you can walk barefoot or you can walk in your shoes on grass, sand, soil. The idea is just to get some kind of sensation underfoot that you can focus on. Another one, which is a incredibly helpful one, especially if you have intrusive thoughts, is holding ice, because this helps to steer your body away from a stress response. And so if you're holding ice, that, it's going to get pretty cold in your hand pretty quickly. And sometimes it's a little bit painful. And so the idea is that it distracts your mind. And it's especially helpful if you have intrusive thoughts, or if you're maybe kind of feeling like an anxiety attack is coming on. That's a really great one to try out. Another one is putting your hands in water. If you hold a lot of stress or tension in your body, like in your shoulders, your neck, your head, heating up some water in the sink or in the bathtub and putting your hands and sometimes even your feet in that water, making sure, you're not burning yourself, but it is hot, can really help to kind of reduce some of that tension. It pulls the blood away from those spots and puts them in your hands and your feet. And so it helps to really reduce that stress in those areas. You can also do some stretching or some yoga. You don't even have to get up. You can just do it in your chair. You can do it on your couch, in your bed. There's really simple ways of doing this. And then my other favorite one is just having some quality floor time. Sometimes just laying on the ground and just letting your body kind of decompress and relax into the floor can really help give you the break you need. Another way is, we just spoke quickly about intrusive thoughts or just kind of those negative thought spirals throughout this presentation. Cognitive restructuring is a really great tool to have in your back pocket. And you can even, take it away from just focusing on like doom scrolling, doom spiraling, talking about, feelings of powerlessness. It helps you to really be able to reconstruct what are those feelings I'm having and what are some action steps I can do to do the opposite feeling. And so when you identify your negative thoughts, the first one that comes to mind that's a really easy example is, I'm going to fail this exam. And then you'll identify those inconsistencies. So sit there and be like, well, I've never failed an exam in this class before. I'm studying, I'm chatting with my classmates and identifying that evidence, showing yourself like, I've spent this many hours studying. I have spent this many hours in that class learning this material. And then replacing that negative thought with, maybe I won't fail. I'll get a 75 and 80. Will it be as, high of a score as I want it to be? Maybe not, but I know I'm not going to fail this exam. And then observing that mood and seeing, okay, do I feel a little bit better? Am I ready to continue, move forward? How am I feeling? And so Mental Health America has a really great tool online that I highly recommend you check out, or even just have it bookmarked for when you or a friend needs it. What they do is they walk you through the steps of cognitive restructuring. And so my favorite thing about this tool is it'll give you examples. And so a lot of times, we tell you, try this tool out, and we don't give you examples. And so it can get kind of hard to kind of sit there and think of them yourself, especially when you're in that thought spiral. And so Mental Health America does a really great job of breaking that down and providing you with some examples, some tools, and some steps for moving forward. And lastly, just take a break. You can walk away from the conversation. You can put your phone down and you can do something lighthearted. If you're on campus, I highly recommend you go over to our mindful zones. They're all around campus. They're just green or serenity spaces you see on campus. You can even go to the mindful corner that's located in the fitness center. Or if you're online or you're away from campus, taking a break in our virtual relaxation room. Our relaxation room, it has a lot of really great videos on, walking through a scenic park or, the woods or the ocean. It's got some mindless games and tasks that you can do. And it's a really great way to just quickly take a break for yourself. And so we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to dive into managing anxiety within those tough conversations. And so in this next section, we're going to focus on using our emotional intelligence to maintain calm and respect, active listening techniques, and then how can I politely disagree with somebody. When we talk about emotional intelligence, EI is this ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions, as well as the emotions of others. That doesn't mean you're able to control other people's emotions, but you're able to help kind of self-regulate your own, then in turn help de-escalate the situation with them. And so in tough conversations, EI plays a crucial role in navigating conflict and maintaining respectful communication. And it does so through these different bullet points, right? So self-regulation, which is being able to control your impulses and stay calm even when conversations become heated or uncomfortable. This really helps to prevent escalation and keeps the dialogue productive. When we look at self-awareness, it's kind of self-explanatory, right? It's recognizing your own emotional responses during those difficult conversations or actions or experiences. It's being able to stay mindful of triggers and manage emotional reactions like anger or frustration. Then we have empathy, and I'm going to address empathy on nearly every single slide from here on out because it is such an important tool that we all need to strengthen and recognize. When we talk about empathy, we're talking about this understanding and validating of emotions of the other person, right? You want to show empathy by creating a supportive environment that really encourages open, respectful communication. And this is going to lend into active listening. You want to listen to understand rather than just to respond. You don't want to sit there in these conversations and kind of like bounce up and down and be like, when's it my turn? When's it my turn? You want to be able to understand what they're saying. You should be able to paraphrase it back. You should be able to rephrase it back to them and gain clarity. And this ensures that you're engaging thoughtfully and acknowledging the other person's viewpoint. And lastly, EI really lends a hand to conflict resolution. It uses, these tools to de-escalate tensions and focus on finding common ground or just simply a constructive way forward rather than winning the argument, right? And so when we talk about active listening is such a strong tool that we can all improve on no matter where we're at in life. And so active listening is this practice of fully concentrating, understanding, and responding thoughtfully to what someone is saying. Exactly how I said on the slide before, you don't want to sit there bouncing, waiting for your turn to speak. You want to understand. You want to engage thoughtfully with this person. And this involves giving your undivided attention to the speaker, avoiding those distractions, and making that conscious effort to comprehend their message without interrupting or planning your response while they're talking. Some key features of active listening are going to be focusing completely on the speaker, so showing interest through both verbal and nonverbal actions, right? So, nodding your head, saying, oh, I see, I understand, or I hadn't thought about it that way. Not looking away, not looking to the side, not being on your phone or, reading a book or something like that. And, if eye contact makes you uncomfortable, you can simply look like past the person's shoulder, look on their forehead, their nose. But we want to engage with them and we want to let that person know we're listening. And sometimes it's not even eye contact. Sometimes it's, leaning slightly towards them or having a hand if you're comfortable and they're comfortable, holding their hand or having it on their shoulder or their knee, depending on your relationship with them. Another key feature of active listening is avoiding that judgment. And then you also want to reflect and paraphrase, like I said on the slide before. So when we talk about reflecting and paraphrasing, all we're saying is restating what the person has said to confirm understanding and show that you're following along. And so this can look like, somebody saying policy X, Y, and Z really stresses me out because it makes me feel like I am not going to have a place to go to work. I'm not going to have a place to live, et cetera, et cetera. And you can just say, it sounds like you feel like you'll be in danger if this policy is enacted, or it sounds like this policy really stresses you out. It's just very simple and it seems a little silly, but it goes a long way in telling somebody I'm listening and I care about what you're saying. And then lastly, the biggest part of active listening is having that empathy. And again, it's the reason we rephrase and or reflect and paraphrase. It helps them understand that we're following them and we're acknowledging what they're saying and acknowledging how they feel. And so some of the benefits of active listening, why we say, you want to be fully engaged with these people, regardless of what you hope the outcome to be, or simply what the content of this communication is or this conversation. Active listening really improves communication, it helps foster understanding and strengthens relationships. And so by fully focusing on the speaker, you're showing respect and empathy, which helps build trust and reduces misunderstanding. Also encourages open dialogue, helps to resolve conflicts, and ensures that both parties feel heard and valued. Now, I understand sometimes we're in conversations where it does feel like our identity is being attacked, and sometimes our identity is being attacked. And I'm not saying to actively listen to somebody to make them feel like they're correct, they're right, but you want to actively listen because that is a really safe tool to have. Actively listening to somebody, being able to engage with them, and making sure they feel heard and valued is often a really great tool for de-escalating situations. You're not going to be, engaging in a like very divisive argument with them. It's not going to be over the top, angry, yelling, screaming, etc. It's calming. Active listening allows you to remain calm and figure out how to engage proactively with them or even disengage, de-escalate the situation and get out. And so when we talk about putting it into action, it's listening without interrupting, right? You want to be able to put your phone down, put whatever distractions down, maintain that eye contact, show you're engaged. You want to acknowledge the speaker. Use nonverbal cues like nodding or those brief verbal affirmations like I see or go on to show that you're following. The hardest one, for my friends, me, I know a lot of people avoid interrupting. Sometimes we get a little excited or sometimes we get too heated and we don't let the speaker finish their thoughts, and that can really escalate the situation and it can really hurt somebody. And then lastly, you want to be able to summarize what they're saying and asking those open-ended questions to better understand their point of view. And so a really difficult part, of political anxiety or engaging these divisive conversations is staying calm. And again, it's going back to that, idea of what do I do when my identity is being attacked? What do I do when it feels like my values and my morals are being disrespected or invalidated? And so one of the ways we do this is we go back to those EI tools, right? You want to talk about self-awareness and self-regulation. Notice when those emotions are getting heightened and saying, okay, my heart rate is pumping up. I'm really starting to feel anger in my fists, or my legs are starting to tingle from anxiety. Noticing those emotions when they're getting heightened, and then being able to just take a quick deep breath and shove out all that stress. Really pause and focus on staying calm. And so a lot of times, it's really not, it's important to be able to take a break in a conversation. You're allowed to say, hey, can I have a moment to really think about what you just said? Or, hey, you know what? I need to take a moment for myself. I'm going to go to the restroom for a couple of minutes and I'll come back. And then, being able to use those I statements to express your views without blame. So often we're saying, you always do this, you're saying this. And rather than just saying, like, I feel like this is what's coming across. I feel like this is what you're trying to tell me. Can you tell me if that's correct? Or I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now, or I feel disrespected. And just using those I feel statements and taking responsibility for how you feel and not placing on them is really going to help both parties stay calm. And then when we talk about what is polite disagreement, we've all been in conversations, whether it's a political conversation or, group project, etc., where we're having a disagreement, where we don't agree with somebody else. We don't think what they're saying is true, is correct, is helpful, etc. Disagreeing politely includes, having that respectful language, using our calm, non-confrontational language, avoiding insults, sarcasm, or harsh criticism. I think a lot of times when we feel like we're being attacked, we often kind of lean into that sarcastic nature. And that can be incredibly invalidating for not only your own emotions, but the other person's as well. And you want to be able to acknowledge that other person's viewpoint, whether or not you agree with it, whether or not, unfortunately, if it does feel disrespectful or invalidating, you want to show that you understand their perspective, because again, it goes back to safely disengaging from those conversations. And sometimes, that's what you're trying to do, is you're just trying to disengage. You don't want to engage any further. And so this polite disagreement really does come from acknowledging another person's viewpoint and then being able to stay calm and composed, as you maintain calm tone, body language, and that can really help maintain that respectful and productive atmosphere. And so, sometimes you can offer evidence or reasoning to back up your opinion. Sometimes it's just focusing on the issue, not the person you're speaking with. And polite disagreement, overall, it's encouraging those healthy debates. It's helping to preserve your relationships and promotes mutual understanding. And so when we talk about polite disagreement, sometimes you're just kind of trying to get out of it, right? Like, it's not like you're trying to win this argument, like we said a couple of minutes ago. You're trying to get through it. You're trying to say, hey, like, I feel X, Y, and Z. And, that's just where I'm at. And I think about polite disagreement a lot of times comes from our want or need to maintain a relationship with somebody. If it's a stranger on the street, you might not engage in a polite disagreement conversation. But if it's with a family member or a really, close lifelong friend, you might be more attuned to have these conversations and engage in them rather than debating. And again, cultivating that empathy is such a huge part of how we can stay calm in these conversations, because it's going to often lend it's going to lend a hand to helping the other person maintain calm too, right? And so going back to how do we cultivate empathy, it's those active listening skills. It's being able to validate emotions, and you want to mirror the other person's, hopefully calm emotions and paraphrase. I often tell people when they're engaging in, strife or really hard conversations, one of the things you do is, like, if the person's getting elevated, if they're starting to yell at you, they're getting louder and louder, one of the things you do is you match their tone one down, and you do this step ladder of loudness, right? There's probably a better phrase for that. But, if somebody's talking up here, you want to kind of just be down here and say, hey, sometimes you can say, hey, like, if you're not going to match my tone, we're not going to keep talking. I need you to match my tone. I need it to be a calm environment. I need us to be safe. And you just kind of keep going down until you're at a respectful and normal tone, right? Where nobody's yelling, nobody's screaming. And of course, if somebody is, cursing at you, or if you're cursing at somebody else, if you're getting sarcastic, if you're putting them down or they're putting you down, you are allowed to disengage. You're allowed to say, hey, I'm going to take a step away, and, we'll continue this another time. And so again, you want to focus on that understanding and not necessarily disagreeing or agreeing. You want to focus on maintaining a safe environment. And so when things do get heated, you can suggest taking that break. You can say, I think we should pause here and come back to this later. Or, hey, it seems like we're not getting anywhere. I think this conversation just needs to be over. And you want to do those calming techniques, like focusing on your breathing. You can even offer, if it's, a friend, a partner, a family member, if it's somebody you're extremely comfortable with, you can even say, hey, do you want to take a moment with me and let's do a really quick breathing exercise. Let's just take, 4 deep breaths in and out, and then keep going. And you want to make sure to, again, like I said on the previous slide, keep your tone measured and respectful. I often found that, the second that we elevate our voice, it gives the other person permission. And so you want to make sure that you're speaking to the other person. It goes back to that, treat other people the way you want to be treated. And so some phrases to keep in your back pocket for when you're engaging in these harsh conversations. The first one I really think is a really great kind of conversation ender. It's a really great way to say, hey, I hear what you're saying and I see it differently. And then just kind of walking out, just saying, I'm gonna leave now. I'm good. And, if you want to keep continuing this conversation, or if you want to have it at a different time, you can always say, I understand how you feel that way, but I have a different take. And this is a really great one if you have evidence or resources or information you want to keep giving to them. And then lastly, again, I respect your opinion, but I don't agree because. And that one, you can drop off the because and just kind of be like, okay, I'm out, peace. Or you can continue the conversation thoughtfully and respectfully. And lastly, communicate that limit. You are allowed to set a boundary. You have permission. You're allowed to say, I'm good, I'm done. This is not productive. This is not helpful. Or I really, truly don't care to engage with you anymore. And so when we talk about communicating our limits, you want to be able to stay grounded. So again, take that deep breath in and remain calm. Your tone should be firm, but it shouldn't be aggressive. You want to be able to really set that boundary clearly and directly specifically about the behavior that's unacceptable for you. For example, when we set a boundary, you can say, I'm not okay with being yelled at or cursed at. If this continues, I'll step away from the conversation. And you want to state those consequences. And then sometimes this is the hardest part, is you want to follow through. You want to make it clear that you'll do what you said you'll do if the behavior doesn't stop. And you have to be prepared to act on it. And I know that's a difficult one. And so, a way to say that is, I want to continue this conversation, but I need it to stay respectful. If that doesn't happen, I'll need to walk away and then physically remove yourself if needed, or hang up the phone, disengage from the text messages, the DMs, wherever you are. And so if the other person doesn't respect those boundaries, you can disengage. You can say, I'm stepping away until you can talk calmly or until we can talk calmly. And then leave the room, end that conversation. The biggest thing is I want you to take away, you have permission to set that boundary. You have permission to disengage, go no contact, or go low contact if necessary. You're allowed to say, this isn't helpful. I do not like how I'm being spoken to. And you're allowed to walk away. And so that is the end of our presentation. I know I covered a lot of information, but some resources for intentional breaks are just kind of some good vibes and positive help. We have our OCC virtual relaxation room, of course. Feel free to visit it at any time. It's up on our student resources page. There's also a really great website called Good News that I found helpful for combating doom scrolling. And so all they post is good news. And so some days, it's a penguin gave birth, or a species that we thought was on the brink of extinction is now survivable, or we found cure for this disease, this cancer. It's all good news. It's all positive. It's a really great way to just get some of those quick endorphins running. And then lastly, there's this Safe Space Vibrant, and they have really great tools. I suggest clicking on the distraction tab just because it gives you some mindful tasks to do, but they have a lot of really great ones, and it's specifically for mental health support. And so if you haven't check those out, I would really suggest checking all three of these out. And of course, we have our care team. They're located over in the SSC on the second floor, or you can find them through their 24/7 line, 817-735-2740, or you can go to timelycare.com/UNTHSC and engage in our free student support program. And they have some mental health counseling, 24/7 support, and peer-to-peer connect. And so I want to thank you for your time today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're available anytime. Bye.